Hello everyone. We have added a guest who is my student today.
Yes, I'll be your student.
Yes.
It's very fun. Thank you for asking me.
Oh, I have the honor of being with Denise, who is an excellent seamstress. So I know we're going to have a good day together. We're going to have fun. So anyway, we're going to start on the inside of our valise, which has 3 dresses, 3 hats, and other accessories. So the dress we're going to start with is the one I call the Ruffle Dress. And that is this little sweet thing, which is very, very simple, has just a center back seam with a little A-line back, and then the front is a little bit larger and is lined. Let me show you that. Is lined here to give it the silk a little bit more body. And then we will be doing the ruffled lace and the ruffled trim, and then finishing the arms. And that's the most fun.
That's the most fun
to do. Yes, you do. Put it in your little finger. And then we'll use ties to tie it on her. So
beautiful color.
I
love the color.
Yeah. So that's what we're going to do, and we're going to start with the layout. So our layout is, usually I don't cut the lining and the silk together, but in this case, it's so light that I feel I'm not going to get a lot of shift. So I just folded the fabric in half, pinned it on, keeping my straight grain lines even with my fold, and then just simply cut around it accurately. Remember what we said in the beginning, that the key to these little clothes is to be extremely accurate in your stitching and accurate in your cutting.
Okay.
So once that is done, here is what we're going to have. The lining is going to match every piece we have, and they'll be constructed separately. So we're going to start by putting our center back seams together of the silk first, and then the lining, and we'll be constructing like 2 dresses and then put them together and stitch around the outside.
Sounds
okay?
Good. Yes.
All right,
Sounds
good. Well, let's get started.
Okay.
Okay, so we have cut out fronts and backs here, and we're kind of tag teaming this right now in that I have Denise sewing the silk up the center back. We're sewing up the center back seam, and I'm doing the lining. So we're just using a running back stitch on the seam allowance, and you note, of course, your seam allowances are marked on your pattern pieces, so always keep those for references. And when we
So Cheryl, how many stitches would you think they should do per inch for this little garment?
Well, I like to sew short stitches on this because it's just going to look better. You're not, when you open up your seams and look, you're not going to see holes there. So I'd say I'm sewing about, probably seven stitches an inch, something like that.
7, 8.
What are you sewing?
Are you in?
Denise?
You'd say that more.
What
than
am I
that?
sewing? Maybe
Yeah.
about 8, 7, 8. Same.
All right, so you're on the same.
Yeah. You know, that's comfortable. It doesn't have to be. If it's too tight, then it wants to bunch up and not lay flat.
That's a good thing to think about.
Yeah. So when we finish with our seams, we'll be back and show you how to put them together. Okay, now we've had a chance to sew up the seams and press them, but I'm going to show you a little trick on pressing. There's wonderful little hams for pressing, make it so much easier on this. So I've put the little ham under here, and then I've taken the little iron, and I'm just going to, that makes it so easy to do.
Yes, a lot nicer.
A lot, because you've
Easier
got,
than trying to flatten it.
it is, because trying to flatten it down here, then you've got your armhole a mess. And so then, really cool, you can just put a little end in there. And these come in 3 sizes, so you've got yourself covered.
And where can we get those?
We have a lady that makes these for us.
Fantastic.
Yes.
So they're made for dolls too, for the
Right.
size of dolls.
Yeah.
Okay.
They come in 3 sizes.
Yeah,
so.
we've got, and this is the smallest one, I think. So you're going to now, we're going to put,
See, we have the.
we've got the dress all ready to go.
And you've
We're gonna
already
put-
pressed that?
Right.
Yes.
And Denise already pressed that.
And-
so we're going to do right
So
sides.
we're doing right.
I'm going to see how you two did.
Oh.
So I think you
Well, I don't know.
you know,
Do you
it's-
think-
it's-
it's just maybe a
it's so
64th off.
close.
I mean, really. Really.
I think we'll make it work.
Yeah.
teamwork makes dream work.
So the next step is going to be to pin this or
Okay.
pin this together, but you're going to join it. And I leave an opening about like that here so
About
that
an
you'll
inch and a
start.
half or
Yeah.
so?
And we're
right.
still
then
running.
You're sewing running back
Back
stitch
stitch.
all the way around. And then through that opening, we will turn it to the
Turn
right
it.
side
Wow.
and press it again.
Fantastic.
So
Okay.
we will be back.
Okay.
Denise has put the 2 pieces together. We've got the lining and the silk, and we put them right sides together, and then stitched all around, leaving one opening right here for turning. Now she's turned it to the right side now, and then pressing. Do you want to demonstrate a little pressing
And
here?
this fabulous felt. It's felt, right? Felt.
Wool, yeah.
Or wool felt
Yeah.
pressing board. It looks wonderful. This is great. You can put your pins in, you can stick things to it. Wonderful. I have to get this. Okay. And we've got this tiny little iron called a cricket. Oh, it's wonderful. It's hot.
Nice
Does a
and hot.
great job.
And how important, ladies, is pressing?
We're laughing. Yes, very, very, very
I
important.
think it's
Extremely.
good pressing is important as good sewing.
It is, and you have to
Really.
do it as you're going along.
Yes.
Not leaving it to the end.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. Shouldn't have taken that away so fast. So I think we're going to use this little ham. Look at that. It's amazing. Okay.
Do you know, I think you could use that ham when you go to sew that armhole closed. I think it would help.
As long as you didn't catch your stitches
Yeah.
in it, yeah. It'd be interesting to try that. So the next thing that's going to happen is we have our piece of lace that's going to be applied all the way around the dress. If we look here, it's going to go from not at the bottom. You're going to start at the bottom of the center front, go up, give yourself a little ease as you're going around the neck. You'll have to gather that just a tiny bit so it lays nicely, and then it flips and goes down the other side. So that will be the next part that Denise is going to be working on.
Okay.
In the meantime, I started gathering the ruffle here, and let me pull this back so you can see. This is 2 pieces of lace that I placed right sides together, and I've been whipping these pieces together by just overcasting. And what happens when we do that then, and the stitch length is probably somewhere between 1/8 and 1/4 on these whips. And when we do that, and then we're going to use it as a gathering.
That's my favorite way to gather.
I know. It's really works out. So you're gently pulling this. And I give you instructions on, I think we pull it up to 6 inches. So all of this is going to be gathered up into a 6-inch length, which is what is going to sit here. Now it looks on the dress that we've got a narrow piece and a wide piece, but it's an optical illusion because actually it's the same on both sides. But when we put the ruching on, the silk ruching, we're sitting the ruching up to the top.
Love it. Okay.
So that's what we're
Cheryl,
working
I
on
have a
next.
question. when
Yes.
we're putting the lace on this, is that when we're catching the closure to close it up?
I think I caught this previously. It could do that, but you want to be sure this is closed.
Okay.
You really do.
So we'll close that
So
up.
we'll close that first, and then start our lace down at the bottom and up around the neck and down. All right, we've been working on taking the 24 inches of lace and folding it right sides together. I'm going to open this up and show you that this really is 2 pieces of lace. Here we go. Okay, and then we took needle and thread and we loosely whipped over this edge like this. And the whips are about 1/4 inch apart. If you get them too tight, then it's not going to pull up. So as Denise is beginning to pull up her lace here, and that's going to be the lace that we talked about earlier that sits right here. So the pulling of the string ruches the lace, and then it's handy to have your felt board, and then because you can pin right into it, and so then you just pin your flutes like you want them, and then we'll take the steam iron and not touch the lace, but we're going to just hover the steam over it. And what that does is set all of those flutes in place so that they just will stay open. And then we're going to be, you can see it here, how it's not heavily gathered, but you're going to pull up to 6 inches here, which will be the length of this hem. I'm going to show you what goes on next. Is we're going to ruche the silk ribbon. Just hold that for me. And I found the easiest way to do that, we're going to fold back 1/2 inch on each end, and then I pin this to my pin and press board. I thread my needle here, and I'm going to run a gathering stitch down the middle. And if you've got, no, not very neat here.
Well, it's not a normal angle.
No, it is. I'm standing up going, this is
sideways.
It's
but
not
anyway,
a normal angle.
I'm using this to give you the tautness so that when you go to here, it's much easier.
Sure,
Yeah, because you see what trouble I was having just holding it and making it flat. But by pinning it on one end and then just sewing it all the way up here, and when we get to the end, we will ruche that ribbon and do exactly the same thing as we're doing with this lace.
And they could pin that to a
it.
board like this, or a mat,
or to the
just
wool
something
mat.
that they can pin it to.
Right, and then we'll do the same thing of hovering the steam iron over it and setting each of the flutes by doing that. And then you're just going to baste it right on top of the lace that's applied to your skirt. Okay, we'll see you in a bit. All right, where we were the last time was we had the lace put together. We were whipping down. We opened it up on the board, pinned it down, and then hit it with just a steam iron so that the ruching stayed where it was supposed to. Then Denise took the piece of lace, and you can see there's about 1/8 of an inch below here of the hem, and she just tacked it down all the way across here, right through the gathering line. If we look on the back, she did such a nice job. We don't see too many stitches, maybe one. I can see one.
She's gonna have to do it again.
One. She's going to have to fix that part. Oh, it's looking really good. So I'd also shown you how I had put this on the board, and then I pulled it tight and ran my running stitch down the middle of the silk. then I put...
Bixby's just trying to get comfortable.
But scratch, scratch. Then I ruched it up, and I put pins to keep the ruches open, and I needed 6 inches. So on this, it's really easy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we know that's the same length as this. So now we will steam this with a shot of steam. Not touching the silk, but just steaming over it. And as it dries, then the flutes will stay exactly where they're supposed to be, like this.
And we want that fluffy look.
We do. We don't want it flattened at all, but we want it kind of randomly fluffy.
Yeah, we don't. Yeah, it's not pleats. It's fluffy.
Then the other thing that Denise had started is overcasting the armholes. So we're going to overcast these twice, and it's going to be around between a 1/16 of an eighth away. And that's going to finish that edge for us so that we can then put the rest of our lace around here. So that will be the next step. Now we've got the armholes done, which were done by overcasting. I think we can catch that inside a little bit. Overcast the armhole edges twice, only going out about a 1/16 to an eighth of an inch here, because that's going to keep those from raveling out. Then we took a piece of lace, and a 3.5 inch piece of lace, and we gathered the lace and then put it on. And the technique, do you want to show them the technique that you used? Didn't you put your finger in it to do that?
Sure.
Yeah. Denise put her finger in.
Stick your, let's see, finger in, this way, excuse me. And then just beyond where you overcast, let's see if we could show that.
Yeah, right
beyond
there.
Where you had overcast the armhole, then just a running stitch around.
Yeah, let me push that down.
Yeah,
so
a running stitch around.
Yeah, and that just sews the lace on both arms. So it's not really a sleeve, it's just an armhole ruffle. And then the next part will be attaching. I prepared the ties in the front. You see, this little dress just ties, so they're going to be sewn on. I folded that back already, so this will be sewn on this way, here and here, and then it will come across and tie that way. And then, of course, we've got to put a ruched ruffle on the bottom.
The ribbon.
So that will be the last as soon as we get that done, and then we'll show you the finished product.
Put it on the doll.
Yeah. Okay, so my bestest ever student has finished her dress.
Know about that?
Yes, I do. Oh, Denise.
It's not very often one happens in a day here.
That's right. So Blanche is modeling this beautiful little dress, and it's done to perfection. And thank you, Denise, for doing that.
Well, thank you. It's wonderful. It's a great project.
Well, good. Now we'll start on number two.
Number two.
On to number 2.
Yep. Okay, now we're starting with dress number 2, which is the blue silk dress with the diagonal lace trim. This is sort of a classic design of the period, because you see this in a lot of dresses. So this is simple, and here's our original garment here. My original garment,
right.
Not the original garment. But it's constructed similarly to the one we just finished, except that this one's got, we start at the center back seam and just stitch this first, then press it all the way up, and we're constructing silk and lining separately. And then we'll put them together, and we'll stitch around the neck, and then we're going to bind the neck and the armholes here.
With lace.
Yes, with the lace. We're going to use the same lace we've used on here. And it's a similar technique for this joining of the lace as the other one, except we're not pulling it up. It's just flat. So we're gonna just do strips of this to get the width out of it. So let's get started.
Are you up to it, Denise?
I am up to it. Let's go.
Okay. All right.
So we'll be back.
There's no
turning back.
There's no crying in sewing class.
No crying in sewing class. Okay, we're back and we are placing the lining and the dress wrong sides together, and then we're going to baste the armholes together here on both sides, and we're going to baste around the neck to keep it in place. Then the next thing that Denise is going to do is close this back seam, so we're just going to slip stitch that back seam to its lining, and then we're going to be ready to put the dress right sides together like this after those are bound, and then just sew your side seams.
We didn't talk about binding the we're going to bind.
Oh yes, we're going to bind.
With
We're going to bind the neck and the arms
with lace.
With lace as our finish. Instead of the last dress we just overcast and put a ruffle around it, but this one's going to truly be sleeveless.
So is it just the lace just folded?
Yeah, it's just folded in half. If you look on the back here, you can see that half of the lace
and the straight is in the armhole.
Yeah, and then right, and the edging is on the outside. The same here, edging.
And we're doing
outside.
That on the neckline too.
Yeah. Both
So that's
things.
What we're going to do next.
Right, but I'm going to tell you one more thing, since I'm already working on this, is we have to make the diagonal laces on the dress. So like the last dress, we put the lace right sides together, and this time we're just doing a close whip stitch here because it's not gathered. It's just joining those laces together
on the straight
the
header
on the header of the lace, and then you open it out and press it flat. So you're going to have 4 pieces of lace here that I've got in different lengths, and that will depend on which length and where it goes. And on the lace, it's going to go all the way to the back. And this is right out of a little illustration in Poupée Modèle, this cute little dress. So,
and the lengths are in the pattern?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
Yep.
So I guess we're going to sew that on next?
Yeah.
Is that what Denise is going to do? Or she's going to first do?
Denise is going to bind her arms and her neck first, and then she's going to
sew this up,
sew that up, and then put right sides together, and then we'll put a hem in it, and yes, and there's a row of lace around the hem as well. Okay, we talked about not joining the side seams. We talked about binding that neck and arm. So here's what this looks like. Part of the lace is inside the straight edge, and then the little scallop is on the outside, and that's the neck and the arms. Then turn it to the wrong side so we can see it. Place right sides together and joined the seam here, just a little running stitch, and then Denise has started the overcast of this, and when she gets finished with that, she'll go through and trim off these what I call whiskers of threads that are sticking out. Then this was a nice finish. She finished the back.
She's getting better.
She is. I think she's learning. She's learning.
Of course I am. Sure.
So that looks really nice. Look at those nice stitches there, Denise. So when she finishes the overcasting,
maybe get a job here. You
right?
Never know.
We're going to press the seams to the back, and then we're going to turn up the hem, and she's going to do a herringbone stitch to get that hem. And I'm asking for the herringbone stitch because it makes the hem very flat. If you had to turn back under, you'd end up with more bulk on the front, but the herringbone stitch keeps a very nice,
it's a beautiful stitch. Yeah.
Flat finish. And then when she finishes with that, we will be adding a row of lace to the bottom. And
are we going to demonstrate the herringbone? Because that's,
yes, I think so.
An unusual stitch.
It is. It is. But it's something I really like anytime I want a really flat application of something because it adds zero bulk to anything. So I finished my strips of lace that are going to be applied
those are ready.
To the dress. Let's get them the right way. We just have to tack them. We have to hem it first, put that lace on, and then we'll tack these down. And there's measurements to tell you which lace goes where.
Wonderful.
And
Beautiful.
then I started on the rosettes. Now, you're given a piece of coarse fabric, and what we do is just cut a little square off. I haven't given you a pattern exactly. I just said, give me a 1/2 inch circle. So this is a 1/2 inch wide, so I'm just gonna knock the edges off. So we have a 1/2 inch circle here.
It doesn't have to be exact.
No,
it's going to be covered with stuff.
Because it's going to be covered with ruching up by, just like we did on the last dress where we took the 7mm silk ribbon, we turn it back here, do a running stitch down the middle, pull it up, and I've pulled it up, and now I'm in the process of tacking it on to that base. It just makes it lay better on the dress if you've got a base for your rosette.
Yeah, just to kind of tack it here and
yeah,
there.
you just tack it here and there. This is not finished yet. And then after the lace is applied, you get 3 of these down the front. Where's our... Here. So that it looks like that.
Nice and fluffy.
Nice and fluffy.
So they use the same concept of what we did for the skirt.
Exactly.
To make that.
Yeah, right.
And then how many inches is the piece that for those?
Oh, it's 4 inches long. A 4 inch long piece of ribbon for that. And then what remains... Yeah, it's in the instructions.
It's in the instructions.
It is.
Read the book.
Read the book. Read your instructions. That really helps.
Well, I wouldn't, but...
maybe it'd be a hint for somebody else. Then the remaining ribbon will tie into 2 little bows for the shoulders that kind of adds a little interest up there, and then a little bit larger one at the back. So that will finish our dress.
All right, so we should get back to this, huh?
We'll get back to this, and we'll show you a finished dress, I think, the next time around, yes. I think. Okay. We're just about there, but we have the last of what it takes to finish the dress. Now, I've got my dress turned inside out here, and I'm going to do the hem. And the way I'm going to prep that hem is to show you how we use the polish to do this. And what it's going to be is the tiniest bit. And sometimes I'll just wipe down just a little bit here. And what this does is keep all the little tiny frays from coming off. You could also do this on the edges here, but you can see you don't even see the polish, but it's there. It's enough to keep those edges down.
And this is really kind of necessary for this tiny garment.
It is. Then the
seams
silk,
are so small.
The seams are small, and the silk is so fine that if you don't do that, it's hard to keep them down and keep them not fraying. You can see this little edge here is beginning to fray, and now with the polish, it's going to stop it. Now, the one thing you have to remember when you do this is that even though it's just a tiny bit of polish, you don't want to put a hot iron on that. So I went in and just pressed the fold of the hem without that. So
and at this point, there's probably going to not be any reason to be pressing the hem.
No,
again.
no, that's it. But if you do, be sure that you protect your iron on your ironing board from getting any of that off. But there's hardly anything, but it serves its purpose, just serves its purpose beautifully. Okay, so we've got the hem sealed, and I call for the herringbone stitch, and I don't know if you can even see this on the camera.
Oh, yes.
Okay, can you? Okay. Because
I can.
Because I decided that it might be easier to demo this in black. I mean, obviously, that's not what's going to go here, because I've done the whole hem in the white, but just for demonstration purposes. You go, okay, so what's the herringbone stitch? Well, I put in a page of basic hand stitching. Now, we haven't talked about how to do running stitch, how to do running back, how to do herringbone, but these are the stitches that we've been using right along. And then you can refer to this page, and it has all the information and a little illustration of each one, so that you can understand what it is.
This is really important for someone who, I mean, this is a nice project for someone who's advanced or someone who's beginning.
Who's just beginning. Yeah. That is exactly right.
Those schematics are excellent.
Really, really helpful. Really helpful.
I mean, I always like to look at them, because sometimes you just forget
exactly what it is.
But I have to think, well, what is it called?
Right. And this herringbone, I always have to sit and go, okay, now how did I start this so that it works right? But the trick to herringbone stitch, and I think maybe I'll point it out on the illustration, is you're always working your needle from right to left, whether it's this stitch or this stitch. It's always, if you're right-handed, always right to left. And you don't want to pick up just a thread. You want to pick up a couple of threads, so that you get this nice X, 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 X,
and
X out of it.
This is something we're using it in the inners, but this is something that in a lot of 19th century garments was used as a decorative design
stitch.
So once you've got this, you could do a plain wool dress and then
herringbone it. Right. And you can even,
contrasting color.
even run ribbon down through this.
Oh, yes.
Through this middle, which would be just absolutely charming. Yes. So anyway, we're going to go right to left, and I'm going to point out the last illustration on ruching, because that'll be one of the next things I'm going to show you. And it just shows you that we're sewing down the middle of the ribbon, and then we're going to pull it up. Or I've got another technique where we'll clip the ribbon and use one of the silk threads as our ruching. But that's what your last information is here.
All right, well, we'll get that set up, and we'll be right back.
Okay, obviously we would not ordinarily be using black thread to demonstrate this, but the white was so difficult to see, I felt on the camera, that for demo purposes, I'm just going to do a few of the white. So I started under the hem and left my knot under there. So that's coming up, and then again, we're working right to left for every stitch. I'm going to take a right to left stitch, and I'm not just picking a thread. I'm actually going over a few threads here. And then I'm going to come up here, and I'm only going to pick the batiste lining here.
So this is something we should do slowly.
Slowly, and make it nice and even, because it's such a pretty stitch that... you're probably thinking, why are we doing this rather than overcasting or slip stitching or something? The reason is that, see how flat, I mean, I can feel how flat this is. If we had turned that hem down, we'd have another ridge here, which would not look as nice on the front. And this just keeps all the threads in place. So we're just going to pick up a couple here.
It's a very elegant finish.
It is.
To
And it's interesting, when I learned to do this is when I was a teenager, when I first learned to sew, I was sewing with Vogue patterns. And when the Vogue patterns came, they came with a little label that you could sew in your garment. And this was always the way that label was attached. And I thought, that is lovely, a lovely thing. So every once in a while.
You've been doing this?
For a long time, yes.
For a few years.
Since my teenage years. That's a few years ago. Yeah, okay, so that's the idea, so that you get this really lovely XXXXXXX going down.
And before you start on the garment, test it on
scrap.
On scrap.
Yes, yes.
And keep doing it until you
get the hang of it.
Flow, and
yeah.
then
right, and just remember, it's always right to left, right to left. Now, sometimes I'll hold my piece this way, which is up, 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 but it's still, the needle is going that direction.
See, Sheryl, how this looks. I've seen a lot of 19th century garments for dolls, black and white, where the dress is white, and they've used this as a decorative trim.
Yes, actually.
And they've actually used it to put ribbon on.
Right, because just think of what a little ribbon would look like running through here with those X's over it. Actually, some of the Poupée Modèle fabric sheets that I have seen in books have this around a collar, down the front.
I think some of the things that we did the video on the pocket doll had.
True,
yeah.
True. So anyway, it's a great stitch to learn, and it's very practical, especially on these small garments.
And there is the basic hand stitching sheet in there.
Right, that will show you.
In there, in the kit.
Yeah, it certainly is. It's in with your instructions. Okay, so now we'll go on to the next part. And when I got that finished, and I turned it to the right side, then I applied the lace on the hem. And you can see I've just got a tiny bit of the
round
little picot-y kind of edges are peeking over the edge here. So then that is finished. And then we will apply the lace to the front.
This is a beautiful fabric.
Isn't this? And it's so light, and the color is elegant. So then we'll go back to the sheet that had your pattern pieces on it, and below that shows the garment front and back. And the reason I'm doing this on here so I can show you that this is lace 1, lace 2, lace 3, lace 4 on the front, and corresponding on the back, this is lace 4 coming around and ending here. This is lace 2 coming around and ending here, and lace 1 here. So I took the laces, just like we'd done before, put them right sides together and whipped them. Open them out.
And the whip stitch is in the instruction is in
right?
that hand.
It is, right. So that's lace number 4, which is the one that's going to go from the neck around to the hem in the back. So let's try that. It's going to come down. Whoops, let's get a pin and pin it in place. So it's going to wrap around the dress and end back in here.
That's a very chic design that I've seen on many mignonettes. And
yes.
On bébés too.
Oh, really? Have you seen this on bébés? Yes. So I'm going to adjust this now, since this is my scalloped edge here that is the end.
It's the finished.
It's the finished end. I'm going to finish down here, and then I'm going to take this up to here, and I will sew this on right down the middle. And when I get to the end up here, I'll just trim this away. There really aren't any raw edges in lace. I mean, they can be clipped off. So that's lace number 1. No, lace number 4. And then we'll just work around to lace number 3, which again starts up in here, comes around here, and you get the idea of 2 being down in here, and then 1 you barely see on the front. So here's your finish on the dress with those laces. And they just It may seem very asymmetric on the back, which it is, but that's the way it was done. And you see this little illustration in Poupée Modèle.
Oh, yes.
It looks
But
exactly
I love
the
this
same.
dress.
Yeah.
And when they have this kit and the pattern in the kit, and they could do this in red as a Christmas dress,
Yes.
and,
Yes.
and pink, and
Right, and you could actually sew ribbon on in this the same kind of pattern. You could put buttons down here instead of rosettes, but I thought the rosettes with the contrasting blue, blue-green kind of teal color would be nice. So then we're on to making the rosettes. So I've given you actually a long piece of this backing fabric, and we're going to cut 1/2 inch circles. So I'm just going to do this with my scissors.
My scissors.
I love your scissors. Yes, especially on curves like this.
I'll give you a pair.
Oh, thank you.
You can have those.
Oh, great. Okay. Love it.
But they really are nice
They
and
are
sharp.
nice and sharp, and the tips are wonderful on them. So we're going to do 3 of these because we have 3 rosettes down the front here. Now, there are a couple of ways to do your rosettes. And I'm not sure which way I actually like the best. The first thing I did was take the weehaw and seal the end, and I sealed this end down here, as that's turned back about 1/4 inch. But that's so when I'm working with this, I'm not going to end up pulling out that end.
Which is easy to do.
It's very easy to do, and then you're starting over again.
Because you want this light, fluffy silk, and
it can go away on you.
Yeah, it can be a pretty open weave to get that nice.
Yeah. So I'm just doing a little running stitch down the center, and I'm not going to show you all the way to the end. You'll get the idea, but you can see when we pull it up, it ruches into this beautiful.
And it's the same concept of what we did with the other dress.
Exactly. It's exactly like until you get to the end. Then I'll show you another way to do it. Again, I've sealed the end with the weehaw so it doesn't come out. And on the opposite end, I'm going to take these lovely scissors, and I am going to cut into the silk like that. And then I'm going to take my needle and open it up until I've got a thread. You can see, can you see that, Michael? Actually, I've got 2 threads there.
Okay.
Okay. I'm going to grab that with my fingers, and I'm going to ruche the ribbon. And the problems can be that it wants to roll on you. That's the one thing you've got to keep flat here.
It makes it cute.
It does, and easy, very easy. So that will be our rosette, like that. And then we're going to take the weehaw, and we're going to finish, stop it from going any further here.
I think this is cute, but and it's a great thing to learn. But I think the one that has the more sweat equity in sewing it is cuter.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, I think it's fluffier.
Oh, that first one, the aqua one. Yes. Well, that does have a lot of fluff. It does. So I'm just going to...
this, I think, it is nice, too. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
This might be... this is a great thing for miniature work, because sometimes the ribbon is so small that it's hard to sew it.
Right.
No, that's actually gorgeous, too. So as my grandmother would say, it's 6 of one and half a dozen
of the other. Yes. Okay, then a little weehaw on this. And if you prefer, you can sew it down. I prefer not to sew it down. I would just rather stick it down. And
again, if you start sewing it, it's very delicate.
And I'm going to use these scissors as my poker here to get it centered on that. Come on, center nicely
We might have
for me.
wanted to let the wee off sit for a minute. Too,
True. It does work better if you don't rush it.
Don't rush the wee hoss.
Don't they get upset with you. Then we'll just hide this end underneath
That's really,
here.
really great.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, people. Sometimes I get
all excited here
because I'm looking with my eyes, not looking. I have to remember to look through the camera, not the.
So
that's really great.
We'll just leave this to dry now so it doesn't go anyplace. And here are a couple I did earlier. And you can see they just place
oh, yeah, perfect.
Right down here. And those I do sew on. I don't glue these on.
Yeah, because you have plenty of places in there.
You do. And this is really easy to sew through. So, you know, I just stab stitch it down and back a couple of times. And then the last part of the dress is the ribbon trim. So I just made 3 little ribbons out of the little bows. Yes, little bows.
Everyone knows
how to do this. And I didn't do anything fancy on these bows. I just tied them in the traditional manner. 2 of them one goes on each shoulder, and then I've got one sitting right here in the back.
Well, shall we get this all sewn on and show them the finished?
Well, we've got the finished
here.
We don't have to do that. Well, you know, unless you're unsatisfied with this.
I'm a type A. It's got to be
done. It's got to be done. It is. We have one finished, and then that should show
Denise,
you.
When she gets in.
Oh, finish this dress. Yes, good idea. Okay.
All right, that's great. We're going to move on to the next one. We'll be back, people.
Okay, we're going to switch gears here and do a fun little project because I said she had 3 hats. So we're going to do the Lacey bonnet project, which is very simple but very effective on her. So this is the back, and this is the trim, which actually already has your bows on it, sewn on, so they don't even have to do those. And it's constructed with 1 large piece of lace, 1 small piece of lace, and a wire. And that's all there is to it. So we're going to start out with our pattern piece, and I've already ironed back this I think was about 1/4 of an inch on the edge. And then here it says to place the front scallops on this edge. So we're not even going to cut anything. We're just going to see that that's how the pattern is. We're going to sew 2 little rows of gathering stitches here and 2 rows here. I don't know, can you see through the pattern to see that? Yeah, right there. And then the rest of it just hangs over and makes the big ruffle. So let's do that first, and then we'll be back and show you the construction. Okay, so Denise has all of her stitches here. There's 2 here on the straight edge and the 2 in the middle, just like on the pattern here. So we're going to take that. On the instructions it says to pull up and the front gathering, which is this one, until it measures 2.5 inches. So why don't you do that? Okay. And we'll use the board as our measurer. And then we're going to tie it off.
Let's see.
Yeah, that looks
getting
just about right.
Getting
Yeah,
kind of close
good.
there.
Okay, so you want to tie those threads off?
Yes, sure. Let me get on top and
here, you can hold that. Make it
it's
easier.
traveling. Yeah.
Yes.
That's what's great about the pressing mat. You can pin it into
You can pin it
Yes.
into place.
Yeah. To give it one
One
knot.
more.
Yeah,
Yep.
for security.
Yeah.
Okay.
And cut that off?
Yeah.
Or leave it? Okay.
Yeah, let's just cut it off because it's not going to do
Be
us
in the
any
way.
good.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we have a wire because this is going to wire in the front. And we've got our 2.5 inches of wire. The ends have been turned in, and actually in your kits I've already done this for you, but there is an illustration of what that is. So you're going to take this wire. First I would tack those down.
Okay.
And then you're just going to whip the bonnet onto the wire.
At that.
Like that.
Cute.
Okay.
So, all right.
We'll be back. Okay. We have taken the pattern, put the gathering stitches where they were supposed to be, pulled the upper ones, the ones that are near the scalloped edge here, up to the 2.5 inches, whipped on the wire that we can see is running ear to ear, because this will be ear to ear when we're finished. And then there is a smaller lace that we pulled the heading threads on to gather just to fit there, and then that heading lace gets whipped over the wire. So then the front of the bonnet would be finished. We're going to go back here, and we've still got our gathering threads on the bottom. So we pull those up to 1.5. inches, and then we go back to the inside. We fold those together, and we do a running stitch down in here, and that turns out to be the back of the bonnet. So there we are. So that 1.5 for the total turns out to be 3/4 inch, obviously, right there. So that just gives the back of your little bonnet. When we're finished with that, we'll take the trim, which already has the ribbons in place on it. It's got a nice ombre pink color. And we're going to first turn back the one end with our Wee-Haw glue. We're going to glue that down, and then we're going to stitch this right across the top here. So we just place the ribbons and just tack that down, and then when we get the other end, we'll turn that back too. So that will be the finish. Add 2 little flowers right here. I got 2 little pale pink flowers that match, and they are sitting right here. Just I've got them a little off-sided on the bonnet, and she's done. All done, and
So
it is
cute.
so cute.
So cute.
It is just adorable. And actually, this very technique could be used on any size doll. I have used the same, exactly
so
the
clever.
same technique with fabric instead of lace. Or if you've got a nice wide lace, you can also do that. But it's so simple and so effective. So there you are with your lacy bonnet. Okay, before we go on to the flannel dress, I'd like to show you the finish of the little lacy bonnet. So you can see how cute it is on her. And it just fits her to a T. Okay.
Darling.
Yeah, it is so cute.
It's really cute.
So
And it's
cute.
was it fun to make?
It was very
Denise?
much fun to make. Yes.
And I know how much you love hats.
I adore But I liked this one.
Did you like this one?
Yes, and you can do it to all different kinds of laces, you said, or fabrics.
Or fabrics.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's a very versatile
This
little
pulls
pattern.
right up. Look at how it hugs her head in the back. This little seam pulls right up.
Darling.
It is very
It's
cute.
a very cute thing. Okay, on to the flannel dress. So we've got a flannel dress and Swiss flannel, not just any old flannel, that has a plastron front. So I'm going to take out my pins here so you can see that it just sets into the dress, and then it just laps over like that. So it's very monochromatic, but I think it looks lovely on her. And she's got this cute little pleated center back. And also, look at the tiny little buttons I found for you, because they are, I think, really special. Yeah. Yes. Okay, so
that'll be fun.
Yeah. So we're going to start out with the layout. So here's the flannel, and you can see this back, because of the pleating, and this is opened out, has got a very wide spot here. So it goes on the fold, and then we're going to pleat all of this up into that little back. Then we're going to fold the fabric the other way. So we have a fold this way that fits the back, this way that fits the front. There is no right, wrong, or upside down, or there's no direction to it. So we can run that front here. Now we've also got to do lining, but we are not lining the entire dress. We are only lining the front and then the facing to the back. Because if we tried to line up in here with all these pleats, it would not lie flat. It would stick out and not want to behave itself. So we just line the front, and the facing goes around the back neck. And then this piece, of course, is done separately. So we'll go into that as well. But first we're going to cut this out, and I've already done this. We move this piece, we cut this out, and then move this piece over here so that we've got the two front linings, and the back facing is this piece. And then we have the base for the plastron. So it's there. And then we will get started. I think I'll start on the plastron and explain how that is put together. I actually have a pre-done beginning to it so that we can save a little bit of time here. So first you're going to take your two pieces and you just stitch around the outside, leaving yourself an opening for turning. So this has been turned already. Nice, keep your nice sharp points here. And then the plastron is made with two pieces of lace. So we've got the top piece is here and applied, and you're going to cut the heading off of the lace right down to that line, and then that just goes away. Then we will run 2 rows of gathering here and here, pull it up, and tack it onto the plastron. We've also turned back 1/4 inch on each edge. So this lace, the decorative edge is facing up. On this edge, it's down. And if we look at our dress again, you can see that this edge, is right here. So you're going to get gather across that, pull it up, set it over the upper edge, and then the bottom is extending below. Okay, very simple, but very effective. A very simple thing. So let's start with that, Denise, and we'll come back.
All right.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay. We've got a silk ribbon that's going to act as our hem facing here. Again, chosen because of how flat it's going to make this hem. And the other thing that we're going to do, repeat like we did on the last dress, is we're going to herringbone this to the outer. Now this time you're going to see the stitches because there's no lining in this part. So you're going to carefully pick that. Let's do it on this side so you can see that I just barely picked up the flannel. And if you look carefully on the right side, you'll probably see the flannel's got some body to it, or some fluff to it. You're not seeing a lot of stitching there, but you could see the picks from the other side. But that's what we're And then obviously we have to get this in the right place. We have to fold it up before we do that. So we've got a total 1/4 inch fold up of the flannel here with the hem tape on top of it.
Now, is the hem tape, is it sewn to the...
It's sewn on with a running stitch. So you can see my little running stitches here. So I turned it up with the running stitch right there. And so my total turn under here of the flannel is 1/4. And I've got about a scant 1/4 of the silk above. So we'll just herringbone all of this across and press it. And then we'll go on to pleating the back. But in the meantime, Denise has finished her little plastron, which is
darling.
Gathered across to here. It has the piece cut off underneath, so that was flat. And then this is the heading of the second piece of lace. So the one piece of lace faces up, the other piece of lace faces down. So that's why it looks all complicated, but it's all just because of the design and the netting and the little dots on it that make it look fluffy and nice.
Well, Cheryl, I noticed that the lace is 2 different colors. Is it a different...
Ah, yes. Okay, the lace you have in your kit is this just off-white color. And since I used the tan lace here, I felt that was too much contrast between here and here. So I took the whole piece and I just submerged it in instant coffee and then rinsed it really well and laid it out to dry. And you'll see in some of the other pieces too where my lace on the camera might look darker than what you were given in your kit, and that's because I did a quick dip in instant coffee.
So they can do it if they want?
Or not. Doesn't have to be done. Now this lace is naturally this color. It comes purchased this way. But I kind of wanted a monochromatic look here, so that's up to you.
This would be quite a contrast there.
Yeah, I felt it was too much when I did it.
I mean, you could, of course,
yeah,
depending on what you
wanted. So that's what I did, and just keep in mind on other things I also dipped just the bright white out of the lace. That's all I want is just a little subtle. And instant coffee, or even this morning I dumped a little of my lace in my leftover coffee, worked well too. So,
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry for the camera jiggles.
Wiggling dogs under the table.
Evidently, Annabelle's not happy.
Yeah. Okay, so now we're going to begin to, once we herringbone this down, then we'll begin to pleat this and get this in place. And then when we get to joining the fronts to the backs, it's very simple. So.
And this is marked on the pattern.
It is, yes. I don't remember where our pattern ended up, but all of your folds are marked on the pattern.
Okay.
There's a dotted stitch and a solid line. So I'll explain. What did I do? Here we are. Here's our pattern piece. So the solid line is the fold of the fabric. The dotted line is where that fold comes to. So I've drawn a little arrow that shows you fold on the solid, bring it over to the dotted and pinned. And then again, fold on the solid, follow your arrow, and go to the dotted line, and that's where it's going to sit. And we continue all the way over to here, and if we look at our garment, that's what it is on the back. So you've got one box pleat here, and these two are knife pleats on the other side. And they just fit into that little spot that we have here. So the whole thing is just going to fit into here when we're finished with the dots and the folds. And the other thing I should point out in pleating, because a lot of times students get very confused about this. Anytime I'm pleating from the right side of the fabric. If you pleated this from the wrong side, you'd end up with an inverted pleat and then your knife pleats. Right. Where this way, you want the box pleat in the center and the knife pleats next to it. And then we'll cover the heading of that with a little bit of the lace and 2 more buttons. Okay, we'll be back.
We'll be back.
Okay, Denise has finished her hem now. She's got her nice herringbone stitch here. Shall we check the other side?
Sure, let's check it.
Let's check the other side.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, no.
Look how beautiful. Look how beautiful that is.
You're getting better every day.
Every day. This is wonderful. Thank you, Sheryl.
Right. Okay, so the next thing is to place the back piece right sides together, and then do a nice running back stitch down here to the dot. You'll see the dot on the pattern here. So we're stitching this down to here, and then we're clipping right in here where the straight line is. And then you're going to turn this pleating back out to the right side. So it ended up on the inside to begin with, and then you're just going to put it through the hole to the outside. And then she's going to start putting her pleats in. And remember again that it is fold, so you have 1 box pleat in the middle, comes over to the dotted line, fold, come over to the dotted line, and fold and come over to the dotted line. And the last one is really deep. It comes all the way over to there. So if you hold up, hold up the dress.
I was kind of getting a view.
Yeah, right, and how deep that is. You've got 2 shallow here, and then 1 really deep. So I think it comes,
It kind of meets in the middle.
It comes, or maybe even overlaps just a little bit here. But that's what will give you that nice back. So just look how deep that last pleat is, and where it comes over about equidistance to that, what's going to be our side seam. Okay, so pleating next. So Denise, get busy with that.
I will.
And then we'll come back again. Here we have Denise having finished her pleating, really beautiful, and it pressed out so nice. And here it is from the back side. So that's looking great. Then we will join with the cotton facing the fronts and the neck facing, just on the shoulder seams. Press those open, lay the pieces right side together, and then sew up the front around the neck and down the other side. Then we'll clip this in here and turn it so that it's wrong sides together, and then we'll finish up with our side seams. So we had laid this down, right sides together, and then stitched up here around the neck and down, folded it, wrong sides together now. Oops, get this so you can see it. Clipped, of course, all of this so that it turned nicely, and then hemmed the back of that facing. The rest of this is all going to be covered, but that would be raw if we didn't do that. Pressed it really, really nicely. Okay, can you see that better? And then the next step is going to be to bind the armholes. Now, I would baste this together first, or it'll do just what it did to me, which is flip all over the place. But we're going to bind the armholes with lace like that. Does that show?
So it's just a fold?
It's just, the lace is just folding over the raw edge. And then we get that done, then we can place this together and sew the side seam, but not catching the lining. And then we also have to turn up the hem here to match the back. So we'll be back when we've got that part, and we're, believe it or not, on the end here. Okay, we're back, and we have this turned back. We've turned in, can you catch that? A 1/4 inch on the bottom of the hem of this, and a 1/4 inch on the bottom of the hem and the facing, and then put a little pin here. Turn back the facing here to the seam. And then we're gonna slip stitch this around and up to here, and then we'll be ready to bind the armholes with the piece of lace. That's it for now, and when that's finished, we'll come back, and we are on our last steps, which are trimming the dress with the tan lace, adding our tiny little buttons, and then attaching the plastron, and then we'll be finished. So we're almost there. Okay, so we decided to just set that plastron in to see how it fit in here. And it's actually something that you need to do. Put the dress on the doll, set the plastron in, and then it's going to get slip stitched to this side. And the other side, I've given you a couple of hooks to, you know, do hooks and thread loops here. Let's take this off so that we can see what Denise did here beautifully. Here's the inside. She put the lace
Looks
here,
beautiful.
and this is going over the edge, so it's coming to the back. The armhole has been bound with the same lace, and yeah, and that's
pressed yet.
That's it. Oh, and then she put the matching lace over the top of the pleating and put the 2 buttons on. So the last thing that needs to be done here are the other buttons, button here and button here, and then the same thing on the other side. So congrats, you're done.
Yay.
Except for buttons.
Except for buttons.
Those buttons.
Yes,
Good.
yes. So we're gonna make a little tiny straw hat for her. I'm gonna get the trim off. Out of this vintage pink and blue straw. And it's just done by sewing. And it's just, we start out with a round, there as I've started. And I try to get a dome using my finger on the beginning. So we pulled all of this straw because it has a pull thread in it. Can you get that, Michael?
Mm-hmm.
So that we started it with a little loop, and then we just were over, and I'm stab stitching this to the previous row as I go around. Now that I've got the dome part just about done, I'm going to try to take this and flatten it so that we end up with the brim. I think it's easier to see in here. Mm-hmm. So here's your dome part, and then you pull it out so that you're sewing a little flatter here, and then you end up with that.
Now, if they wet it, can that shape
No,
it? No,
that will not help.
So
because this is not natural straw.
Okay.
This is an artificial straw. So wetting it will do nothing but probably make it gummy.
Yeah.
I would not do that.
So
okay.
they just use their fingers.
They just use their fingers, and the fact that there actually is a pull string in each edge here is how we can make it curve. And the other reason is, if you look at the way it's woven, remember as a kid when you had Chinese finger traps, and the tighter you pulled, the more stuck it got on your finger? So it's the same kind of concept here. It's like just braided like a Chinese finger trap, but it gives a nice curve in it so that you've got a tighter curve here with the string, and then the string is spread out a little bit looser here. But that's how you manipulate it.
And do they use that whole length of straw?
Yes, I said to make it 1.5 inches across, and I think given what I've given you, that's what you're going to end up with.
Right,
It's
so
about
just use the whole
1.5.
thing.
Just use the whole thing.
Yeah.
And when you get to the end, I think we can see it here. I end it at the back here just by tucking it up, and then I've got ribbons and stuff that go over it. If you need a little weehaw to secure it right there, that would probably be a good idea. Then to trim it, we're doing a similar thing to what we did on our other ruched ribbons, except this time we're pulling the edge. And you can see it gives a slightly different look.
It curls.
It curls. And then I just pulled it enough to where it would, if this were finished, it would sit right there. And I put a round of weehaw right there and just glued it down. And then tied a little double bow here, and then that gets glued on the back. And there's her little hat, so they're
very cute.
And it matches virtually all the costumes that are in here because of the colors.
And the blue in it.
Yeah, so that's the little straw hat. Very, very quick to do. Okay, we are on to our last hat. We've done 3 dresses and 2 hats, and we have 1 more to go, and that's the toque. So in your kit, you're going to get the patterns for the buckram, which is here, and that's going to be like that, and then a little narrow piece of buckram, and the lining, and the top of the flannel that matches, and then this very special piece of plastic wrap I put over a card for you. So, and you'll find out what that is for. Then there's the lace, and there's the ribbon, and a special little buckle, and there she's modeling it.
Ta-da!
Ta-da! Okay, so we're gonna start by taking our square of buckram, and we're going to wet it until it's all gooey. And then we're going to take, and it's already been done, we'll take the plastic wrap and our very special bottle of weehaw. Yes, weehaw. Is going to have double duty as our hat form. So let me take off this to show you. We first take the saran wrap and put it around.
And that was that saran wrap that you gave them?
Yes, the round.
Nobody has that at home.
No one has that at home. And I just felt like I had to cover little cards with saran wrap so that the kits were complete. So anyway, we're going to pretend that this is all wet and soppy, and we're going to put this over it and pull it down. So this is already been pulled down nice and tight. And I tried
When you say wet, you mean like really, really wet?
I just ran it under the water in the sink until it was wet on both sides. So not sopping, but enough that I can move it.
Okay.
So that's going to come down like that. And then we're going to take a rubber band, which I also provided in your kits, because nobody has rubber bands at home.
No.
I'm going to put it over our hat form, and then I'm going to let this dry. Or what I did today was take the hairdryer and dried it. So that's going to be the basis of our little hat. Then this narrow strip of buckram that you have here is going to go around the top.
And that's pre-cut.
And that's pre-cut for you. And you're just going to take, this is the tricky part, because I need the woohoo from here to wet
the weehaw. It's called weehaw. It's been a long day.
It's been a long day. So, okay. So to solve that problem, I think we can just wet the strip instead of
Sure.
So and that's going to keep all those little pleats in place, and it's going to act as the stabilization for the hat. Because it's so tiny, we don't need wire or anything in it. So put the top back on, always important. And then we'll take the strip, and we want it just on the edge so it's even with the top of the hat. So we're just going to put it around like that. Overlaps, gives it a little more stability. And that is it for that part. So when this is dry, then you will take, the glue is dry, you'll take the whole thing off, and we'll pretend the glue is dry and hope I can get away with it. We'll take it off of our hat form, and then,
which that was very easy.
Funny, yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So then we're going to cut the excess buckram off right even with the bottom of the hat form. Probably not the kindest on the scissors. Okay, so now we have our little hat form that's, I'm gonna get this down
great.
Even. Okay, like that. So then the next thing we're going to do is, yes, let's get rid of some of this stuff. We're going to line the hat next. So you have your hat lining, which it looks like I've gone longer than we need, and I press down one end in, and I press down the top 1/4 of an inch. Now this is going to be the center of our hat. What if I demonstrate by taking that off and see? We're going to pull that, and we have a little peek hole there, and I got a small square, which I don't see, of the cotton. It's going to sit in here first so that you're not seeing buckram through this little peek hole. But somehow I do not see that piece of cotton, but we'll just pretend that's in there. So we're going to pull this up, and then we're going to join the two ends. And I'm going to need to thread a needle to do that. With this great threader.
I love those threaders.
Yeah. I'm going to twist it here. So now we're going to overlap. This was our folded edge. We're going to overlap that to here. Can you see that on the camera, Michael, like that?
Yeah.
And then we're going to attach the two pieces together. So, oops. We want to leave a little bit of a peek hole there, because I think that looks really cool when when you see through that. But I'm not going to join this to this, because as we put it in, we have some ability to adjust if it's not joined. So we'll trim that. And then I'm going to get my second sample out. You can see there's the peek hole, there is the lining, and the lining is going to go around the form like this.
And you just tack it down.
And you're just going to do a running stitch and tack it down. Then you're going to take your piece of your flannel, because this matches your flannel plastron dress, and you're going to run a gathering around the edge like that, and then you're going to pull this up, and this is going to sit down over the top like that. Now this one's already on there, so we'll just pretend that we just did that, and then we're going to just do another running stitch around here like that. So that is the lining inside, the raw edge of the lining up in here. This is going to come down even with the edge of the hat form, and then the whole thing gets covered with lace. So yeah, hold it up. You can see how much of the edging is hanging down there. So you've got this going around here like that. Get a pin so it doesn't come apart. And I gave you a little bit extra so that you could take and make a little cute, a little fold back here on this, so it adds another dimension to the hat. And then we will take and stitch this down so it doesn't go anyplace. And lastly, and the hardest part of the whole thing is you've got this teeny tiny buckle with this little piece of silk ribbon, and that has to go through the slits in the buckle. So we'll see if I can do it tonight. This is always fun. So in order to have a better shot at it, I'm going to angle my ribbon.
So tiny.
It is tiny. And then
That's a wonderful scale.
It is, but it is the devil to work with. This ribbon is longer than we actually need, but we'll start by this. Denise, don't you want to do this part? Don't you want to do this part? We have to go this way.
14-year-olds.
We do.
You do with little tiny fingers.
Little tiny fingers and
14-year-old eyes.
Eyes.
Yeah. This is possible. I did it on mine. I didn't get a 14-year-old to do this one, but I have to say it is tricky. There we get one through.
Wow.
You did that.
I
Wow.
got one. Now I've got to try to get the other one through, and actually I found that if I take a needle, I can sometimes get it to go through that way, or a pin, and just poke the other end through. We're almost
The
there.
struggle is real.
It is real.
It is real. It's real time. Look at that.
What a pro.
Oh, right. Yeah, but the pro here.
What a pro.
So then we have to go back the other way.
The other way.
Yes. We're going to work this down because we've got this, we want this little loop here.
Oh, okay.
So we're going to work this down a bit and then go back through the other side. So we'll see if we have good luck this time. It's almost, there we go. No, there we were, and then we weren't. Denise, can you
get
take
a smaller one next time?
a smaller buckle?
Yes,
So you're
please.
having a lot
Yes,
of fun.
please.
Can you just take this pin, and when I get that end in, just pull it? Or push it or something.
It's
think
kind of
it's-
raveling a bit.
Okay, maybe
right
we need to
there.
trim it again.
And I think you need a little more spin on it too.
Yeah, maybe.
wonder if,
Yeah, there we go. There's one.
Okay, you got to do it.
I've got to do it. This is the challenge. Okay, you ready with the tweezers and the needle
So
or
I guess
whatever?
the thing that needs to be in the construction or the direction is when you do your buckle, you need two people to.
Yes! Hooray!
You got it?
I got it. I got it. I got it. Just get this ribbon turned over here. And
see, this proves it can be done.
yes.
It can be done.
Yes.
I could spend a half an hour or so on
On this.
I can.
Now, how did I get that?
And I
pulled
was
down?
doing that with my needles till I got my needle threaders. I was. I'd be like,
Okay, so now I'm going to take a needle and thread and pinch this up a little bit here. Whoops, without that coming out. And then I'm going to attach this here. And when I get it attached, then I will trim my ends to stick up in some charming way. Okay, now if I could just let go so you could see it. That's
darling.
it. Yeah.
Darling.
So that's it. And it really looks
so cute.
cute on her. Now it's got to come a little bit forward like that. Okay.
Really cute.
Very cute.
So now we have finished everything except for her shoes. Okay, the last of our projects here are the shoes. Now, the shoes are teeny, teeny, tiny, so we felt it was better if I just explained the process, because I think by the time I got my hands in, you would not be able to see them. But I do want to show you how nicely they fit. Just
look at that.
Just cute.
Perfect.
Beautifully. Okay. So what we did was there is a template for the inner sole, which is out of this manila cardstock. Then there is a template for your sole, which is out of a really thin, nice sole leather. And then you have leather that you've got to get 2 uppers from. And then you've got this other sort of strange piece that don't throw it out. So I can say it really is a pattern piece, because when there is no seam in the back of the shoes. So what you're going to do is take your wee-haw and you're going to put a little line of wee-haw here, and you're going to put, after this is cut out, I would pretend that this is a leather, you're going to glue that to here. Then you're going to put more wee-haw here. You're going to roll this around, and you're going to do that and glue the other side down. So what it is they just, can you see that on the camera?
Yes.
Okay. The backs just butt together. They do not overlap, and there's no seam. So that, and you'll have to be patient, because wee-haw makes a little patience out of you to say that let's let it set before we start manipulating it. Okay, once it is joined, then you're going to put the leather on the foot. And we'll pretend there's no inner sole or sole one here. So it's going to go on the foot. It's going to be hanging over. Maybe I'll use the pattern to show you. It's going to be, oh, thank you. It's going to be hanging over. This will be joined in the back. This is hanging over. Take your inner sole, put it on the bottom of her foot, put a little wee-haw in here, and work the edges down. And the leather is so soft that it'll work over really, really nicely. So you just get it so there aren't any pleats or anything. See how even this is here. And then let it dry again so that it doesn't come apart. And then you'll take the leather soles and you'll just glue those over the bottom. So that is the shoe process. And then the fun part is you've got these two gorgeous rosettes, and they're going to sit right here again with glue right on her toe. So that's the shoe making. So we are now finished with Celine in her travel box. It's been a real adventure. I hope you've learned a lot of new things with her. She is so cute. The little doll by Carl is darling, and the clothes were fun. There are a few accessories that are in the box that are in your instructions that I'd actually talk about. But so you can add those, and you can arrange the insides any way you want. You're going to get a little package of the applique pins, and I did not sew anything into the box. I just stuck everything in applique pins because you probably want to change your clothes from time to time. That's easy to take out and do that. And then there's one little extra remember we're talking about in the box. When we pull the little tabs here, we have a sign for you that says World Doll Day Celebrations, property of Mademoiselle Celine. I hope you enjoyed it, had lots of fun with it. I did, and I wished I could see you personally, but that will be happening fairly soon. So thank you very much. Thanks to Michael and David, and we'll see you again.